Have you ever had a normal day? It started out, life is good and all is well. And then the phone rings and you answer it. And your world suddenly is turned upside down. Your life changes on a dime. Before I continue, I invite you to look. What are you expecting? Good news or bad news? It's June 2016. My mom had passed away several months before, a bit shy of her 96th birthday. My husband and I had moved her to live with us from Philadelphia to Boston. And our intention was that the last years of her life, she would live in a home environment where she could go from barely surviving to brilliantly thriving, where her final years would be ones in which she was loved, cared for, and maybe even more importantly, empowered. And like many caregivers, my focus shifted away from my own career, from my health needs, very much from my own life, to taking care of my mom. So I was at a physical therapy appointment tending to an old injury in my shoulder that got exacerbated by taking care of my mom. And I walked out of the appointment and I got into the car, started the car, and the phone rang. Hello? Hi, is this Anne? Yes, who's this? Well, this is Dr. K. We met last week at the radiology department at the Brigham. I'm calling to let you know about the results of your biopsy. Do you have a pen and paper? I said, sure, give me a minute, I'll go find one. And he said, so I need to let you know that the results came back, and what we thought was a benign cyst has actually turned out to be a malignant lesion in your right breast. And please take out the paper and pen I've asked you to take out. I want to give you the name of a top oncologist and a phenomenal oncologic surgeon so that we can get you in as soon as possible and get you scheduled for surgery because this needs to be removed. And then he said, Anne, are you still there? I said, yes, I'm just trying to digest what you're saying. And he said, all right, well, take a breath. I can appreciate this. May not be what you wanted to hear. And I said, no, not exactly. He said, but I want you to remember my final words to you the day that you left me. Because I told you no matter what the outcome was going to be, and I barely even knew you, I knew you would be fine. And I tell you, Anne, you will be fine. Rage, denial, fear. Oh my God, am I going to die? How could this be happening? I'm really a good person. I just took care of my mother. Really, this is not fair. And how could my body? I take care of myself. All right, I was a little late on the mammogram. Yeah, maybe I'm a little more stressed than usual. Come on, I'm grieving. But how could my body be betraying me like this? I don't deserve this. I later realized I was in shock. And there I was, like so many people when they get news, they start negotiating. And there I was negotiating with the ionosphere, so to speak. I'm very fortunate. I grew up in a medical family. And the first call I made after I got off the phone with the radiologist was to my dear husband to let him know what had happened. And then I called my two older brothers, both who are internationally renowned physicians in their fields of expert. And I told them about the results. They were great. And they said, look, you're in Boston. You are at the best. You are being taken care of by the very best. And you will be fine. And then they started to ask me questions. Like, I had no answers for the questions they were asking me. The real turning point and the moment of adventure and journey started when I called a very dear friend and colleague of mine who was a psychiatrist and an end-of-life specialist. Ironically, I was in a seminar that he was leading, Believe it or not, the title of the seminar was Living Passionately. Hi, Guy. It's Ann. Hi, Ann. What's up? Guy, do you have a minute? Sure, Ann. What's up? Guy, I told you I was going in for that biopsy. You know, you've been following along with me, what's been happening. You know, I have no symptoms. I've had no problems, but they did recommend that I go in for the biopsy. And I got the results back. I just got off the phone with the radiologist. And now they're telling me what we thought was a benign cyst is a malignancy and a lesion. And I need surgery. And they're making me crazy. He said, okay, Ann, I got it. He said, please take a deep breath. Really take a deep breath. I said, okay, I'll take a deep breath. And he said, Ann, what do you know? What really do you know? What so? And I said, well, I know that there's a mass that they're saying it's not a good thing for me to have in my right breast. And there's a mass, and it's this size, it's this shape, it's this location, and they think the cellular pathology is dangerous for me. That's actually about what I know, and even the dangerous may be a little bit of an addition, because really all I know is the size and the shape and the location. And he said to me in that moment, he said, Ann, can you choose to be with what's so? Are you willing to choose what's happening? Nothing more, nothing less, nothing added. And from that moment, my mind quieted down. And I realized I really didn't know anything about what was happening. Until I chose my path of action, I really didn't know. And I could just be with, there were cellular changes happening inside of my body, and stop resisting and surrender and accept and embrace. There was a change, and I could be with that. I was 64 years old at the time, and I never have had surgery. I've never had anything wrong with me. So it was very daunting. And then the next miracle that happened, I called a dear friend of mine who's a social worker, and she's a grief counselor. And I said, I just got a phone call. I just got off the phone with a radiologist, and this is what they told me. And she said, Ann, can I offer you a suggestion? I said, sure, I'd love a suggestion. And she said this, and I want to share with you what her suggestion was. And she said, every night when you go to bed, because I know you do bed meditations at night when you go to bed. Every night when you go to bed, I want you to take your hands and put them over your right breast. I said, okay, I could do that. And she said, and then I want you to talk to that lesion. And this is what I want you to say. Little lesion, you're mine. I love you. I love you as I love myself, as I love my entire body. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be angry about. You are a piece and a part of me, like every piece and part of me, like every cell in my body. And I did that every night based on her recommendation. And I loved whatever it was that was happening. And I would say, and the lesion, if you want to shrink, I'll be very happy. And I'm also really happy to give you away to an oncologic surgeon. That would be fine too. And in that moment, I really looked and I said, you know, I do have a choice about who I will be in relationship to this. Will I be a victim? Will I be a victor? Or perhaps I could be a woman who was given a wake-up call, an opportunity to claim my life and to choose who I would be for the rest of my days. And that's what I did. It all sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Remember, I'm talking about lessons and messages. Well, here was a really great lesson. I've got a couple of them. These are the lessons learned of what not to do. Despite what people told me, especially my brothers, I went on Google. That was a huge mistake. First of all, I'd never been exposed to anything like this. I had no idea. Little did I know that that search on Google was going to open up a world about cancer, about all kinds of diseases. But what I didn't know is that each and every one of us, whether it's a cancer or not, are unique. My cancer, as it were, wasn't the same as anybody else's. So that was one really important lesson. Don't go on Google. In social media, anything was not the place to go. The other amazing lesson, I was referred to somebody. As it turns out, she's somebody my husband knew. And she knew about me and of me vis-a-vis my husband. And I got on the phone with her. She had just gone through and recovered from a lesion and surgery and chemo and radiation and the whole drama of all of the treatments. And she said, Ann, I know you. You're tough. You're a fighter. You're going to beat this. I beat this. You can beat this too. If I could tell you, from that moment, I was very clear about who I talked to. I distanced myself intentionally from anyone who was in the conversations of fighting, of survival, of the enemy, that this was some alien creature that had infiltrated me, that I had done something wrong, I was bad, I was being punished. It's amazing, the conversations that were out there, the pervasive dogma, and I powerfully chose to be very careful who I talked with. And I think out of that conversation, I really took on being with myself, the way that my husband and I had been with my mom. Not surviving a growth or a cellular change, but truly thriving and being alive. The people around me were not real thrilled with me because I did a lot of research before I finally chose 2 surgeries, and they were day surgeries, and they were called elective light procedures, chemotherapy, and radiation. I chose to give the oncologic surgeon, the oncologist surgeon and the pathologist, that little gift of mine, because I certainly didn't need it and they could have it. I was very happy to gift it to them. And all along, my motto was one and done. I knew that this was a wake-up call, a knock on the door, as they say, to reevaluate what really mattered to me, what's really important in life, and really to look at, why am I here? Why was I given the gift of life in the first place? And who did I want to be? And how would I be with the precious gift called my life? And I used to drive my oncologist crazy. I would go in and see her. She put me on the to-don't list, not the to-do list. Most people get put on the to-do list. I got the to-don't list because I was stubborn. She knew that. I had a lot of energy. I felt great all during treatment. And she knew what the process was like. So I used to make promises to her of things that I would not do. And I still see my oncologist, and I am 7 years out, free and clear. And for myself and many people that I've talked to that have gone through similar experiences, and not necessarily a breast lesion, but embracing what's so, choosing powerfully to own our bodies, surrendering, gives us so much more power than angst and resistance. And after all, we really are the creators of our own lives. We do get to write our own stories. So I ask you, was that call from the radiologist, was that bad news, or was that call good news? And just as with every call, there are messages to be heard if we're willing to listen, and lessons to be learned. And we have the opportunity time and time again, and I invite all of you to listen to your wake-up calls, not as harbingers of disaster or fear, but truly to embrace them as a gift, an opportunity, a catalyst for growth, for transformation, and for reappreciation and reevaluation of what it is to be alive. We have an opportunity every day, to listen to those, to not have to have that wake-up call to disrupt our perspective or to jolt us into being alive, but every day to choose to live with intention and with love and with joy. Because after all, this is the time of your life. Thank you.